G'day cocktail lovers, it's time for another concoction in the kitchen. This one is going to take a super long time to finish. So I actually don't know how many times you'll see me in how many different shirts. The ultimate time to finish this will be somewhere between a couple of weeks and a month. But here is my favorite Christmas present, an aging barrel, a new oak barrel, little tap and everything. This is Angry got me because it's what I wanted for Christmas. And I have to do shout out to Steve the bartender who gave me a link to a good supplier in Australia, because when I was looking up barrels online, I was very sus about ordering it online because lots of people, they were ornaments and you'd find out, oh, that looks like a barrel like I want, and then go, oh, it's lined with plastic, your drink doesn't actually touch the wood. And you go, no, I want the barrel to age the drink I'm making. So I found one, it's beautifully made, it's with new American oak, charred on the inside. They've done all the grape coupering, it's got a little tap and everything. So the phases you need to go to when you get one of these new, first make sure it's not going to leak. So I filled it with water a couple of days ago. The instructions the website gave were quite meticulous. They said, you know, use it for a couple of days, and they had a whole bunch of tips for if it continued to leak and whatnot. But this essentially has not been leaking. I had water in it for 3-4 days. It didn't leak, so it's ready for the next phase. Now for me, the next phase is going to be essentially flavoring the wood, seasoning the wood, because you have a couple of options. Because of course the bourbon rules in the US is bourbon has to be aged in new oak. It can't have been used for anything else. So you could put a new make spirit in here. Incidentally, the same people who sell these sell new make spirit. So you could put a new make spirit in and make something in the style of bourbon. But what I am going to do, now I've established there are no leaks, I am now going to fill this with a tawny, which is a port. Port is now a protected term, so the Australian makers who used to make port can't call their fortified wine port anymore. They call it a tawny. This is a tawny that the base was actually white grape varietals, but whatever. I'm going to season it by putting fortified wine in there. You could use sherry, port, or equivalents. I'm going to use tawny. I have not yet decided how long the fortified wine will stay in there. It's going to be somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks, and then I'm going to put it back into the bottle. There will probably have been some evaporation because I'm doing this in the Australian summer, and coincidentally, the week leading up after this, we're having a mini heat wave, 30 to 40 Celsius. For those who use freedom units for temperature, be between 90 and 100 Fahrenheit for much of the next week, which is going to probably cause some evaporation. But what I really want is for the fortified wine to permeate the wood and season the wood. And so then I'm going to add, I could do a spirit, but what I think I'm going to do first is a cocktail. I'm going to do a very spirit forward cocktail, probably something along the lines of a boulevardier, a whiskey based cocktail. But I have a couple of weeks to decide. So next time you see me, the fortified wine will have been seasoning the wood for somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks, and I will have made a decision about what I'm going to age in here next. I've been seasoning the barrel for a couple of weeks. No leaks, which I'm mildly impressed by. That means A, well made, B, I did the prep correctly, so that's good. I am interested to see how much evaporation there's been, if any, and of course what it tastes like. So I'm going to pour it back into the bottle it came from. There's my answer, basically no evaporation. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the cocktail. Deal is sweet. It's a really nice sweet tawny. It still tastes like that. And now no, it's actually, well, it's pretty good to start with. It's still good. The wood didn't ruin it or anything. So I'll put that aside and I'll use that in other drinks, or, you know, just to sip on a gentlemanly evening. By all accounts, the best thing to do when barrel aging a cocktail is to use something quite high proof. The lower the alcohol content, the more likely there is to be some spoilage, and I mean growing fungus. We don't want that. So I'm doing something, it's like a bastard cousin of a boulevardier with some other sort of New Orleans vibes thrown in there. I'm going to make enough for about 8 or 9 cocktails, again depending if there's any evaporation, and I'm just doing a blend because I can. When you're doing stuff at this volume, you can do a blend. So I think this is going to end up being quite a complex drink. And yeah, 2 to 4 weeks from now, I'll get to taste it. The whiskey component of a Boulevardier is 45 mils for a single cocktail. As I said, I'm making enough for 8 or so cocktails. So that's pretty easy to work out. That's 4 lots of 90. I've decided to actually do a blend with 4 different spirits here, starting with Balcones single malt, a Texas whiskey, not a bourbon, a single malt, a relatively new thing in American whiskey making. And this has got a really bold flavour. I think it's going to go well with the other things I'm blending. I'm going to add 90 mils of this. I'm also going to add 2 types of rye whiskey, one Australian rye. This one is from The Gospel in Melbourne, and same deal, 90 mils of this is going in. Another recent impulse buy, High West Double Rye from Utah. It was A, very unusual, which caught my eye, B, on special. I always buy things on special. So 90 mils of this is going in. I'm also going to add some Martell Blue Swift. This is actually a VSOP cognac that was finished in bourbon barrels, but the New Orleans drinks, they often swap and change between bourbon and cognac anyway. So this being in that middle ground, I think it fits in with the whiskey component just fine. So I'm going to add 90 mils of this. A standard Boulevardier would have 30 mils of sweet vermouth. I'm actually going to mix up the vermouths as well, just because I can. I'm going to put in 90 mils of Maiden Eyes Classic Vermouth. On top of that, I'm going to go with 90 mils of Punta Mez. Technically not a sweet vermouth, but it is not dry either, so I think it'll go fine. And to really play around, I'm going to put in 60 mils of Fernet Branca, which is a very unique aromatized wine. It's one of those ones with just an absurd number of botanicals in it, and it has this very interesting menthol piney scent to it. And hey, I'm in an experimental mode, so I'm going to put in 60 mils of this. A standard Boulevardier also has 30 mils of Campari. Anyone regular to this channel will know I don't like Campari. I find it too bitter. I do have this other Italian aperitivo, Aperol, which I'm kind of trying to use up. I've had this bottle for a long time. I don't use it very often. And I have some other bitter Amaro aperitifs. So I might use all of this, in fact, because we want to do 8 measures of that 30 mils of a bitter aperitivo. That would usually be it for a Boulevardier. It's just got those 3 components. But I'm hardly being standard here, am I? I'm going to up the whole New Orleans vibe here with some Peychaud's bitters, a Creole style bitters. I'm going to put 8 dashes of Peychaud's bitters in. And just because I can, because I like the flavour, and I think I need to sweeten this up a little because I didn't use really sweet vermouths, which you normally would in a Boulevardier, I'm also going to add 90 mils of cherry brandy. And that's it for now. This is going to sit somewhere with a fairly even temperature out of direct sun, even though I did not get a lot of evaporation when I had this in the direct sun in the hottest days we've had so far this summer, like 30 to over 35 Celsius, which is 90 to 100 Fahrenheit for those playing along at home. But I'm going to keep this in an out of direct sunlight place, fairly stable temperature. I might try it in 2 weeks, and then again in 4 weeks. This could just be an ongoing thing. I honestly, as I record this, I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, but I will probably at least taste this in 2 weeks and take it from there. It's about 6 weeks since this little odyssey began, so not only different shirt, you get to see how much my hair's grown in 6 weeks, I guess. I did give the cocktail a taste 2 weeks into the aging. I should have shot video, I didn't. It was pretty good. I thought, I'm going the whole way, leaving it 4 weeks, so I'm going to taste it. For this initial taste, it's coming straight from the barrel. It's not chilled, so I'm putting it over ice. I could go to the whole trouble of stirring it like you would with cocktail. I can't be bothered. I'm just going to pour it over ice and drink it on ice. From here on, what I'm going to do is drain the barrel and bottle the cocktail and keep it in the fridge, so it'll be chill whenever I want some. But here we go. First taste of the fully matured cocktail, the bastard cousin of Boulevardier. It's gone a very interesting brownish colour. I think it was more reddish when I put it in, but let's give it a taste. It's got really smoky characteristics coming in from the wood in the barrel. The bitterness is still there. I think I'm glad I put that extra cherry brandy in to sweeten it a little bit. Might have been a bit too bitter. I did see after the fact a guide to how to barrel age cocktails. They recommended not putting bitters in until after you're finished because they think bitters get too overpowering. I didn't know that. I don't think it's too bad now. An obvious one is don't use fruit juice when you're aging cocktail because it will almost definitely go off. But this is a really good sipper. It's got a lot of character. I think it was because I did such a volume, I was able to use all those different components rather than using one or two spirits and one vermouth and one bitter. I'm calling this a win. Stay tuned. The next thing I am doing with the barrel is I'm going to fill it with some whiskey. I'm going to use Maker's Mark because I got some on special, but also Maker's Mark is a good whiskey, but not an exceptional whiskey, and it's also easy to get control for Maker's Mark. So I'm going to fill the barrel with Maker's Mark, leave it for at least a month or two. I might look online for some guidance on how long they recommend aging or finishing, I suppose is the right word, some bourbon in a barrel. See how much of the flavours it picks up from what's already been in there, and I'll compare it in a month or two to some straight from the bottle Maker's Mark, and I'll probably try it in some cocktails as well and see what I think. So if you like that sort of thing, stick around for the long haul. Some experiments take longer than others. I've actually ordered another barrel because I want to do more stuff. So besides my silly pseudo-animated sketches in the bar, I'm going to keep doing some of these concoctions and experiments from time to time as well. If you're not already subscribed, it'd be great if you did. Hit the notification bell so you know when I upload, and give the video a thumbs up. Hope to see you again soon, whether it's in the animated bar or in the kitchen for more concoctions. But thanks for hanging around, and until I see you again, cheers!